trying to find out what happened.
Okay, wasn't you just talking to her? Can she provide all them information to you?
Well, let me ask you this. I was just talking to her. What if she told me that you beat the out of her and you jumped on top of her and started punching her in the face? Should I just go ahead and take that?
Okay, but don't you know?
It's your side of the story. Give your side.
All these prescriptions, but you want to be great. Being great is really pushing the envelope. You know what I'm saying?
Gervonta "Tank" Davis has finally broken his silence following reports of his arrest and the abrupt cancellation of his highly anticipated fight with Jake Paul. The boxer now faces a new civil lawsuit accusing him of serious domestic violence allegations. So far, his team and coach have issued only brief public remarks while Jake Paul's November 14th event hangs in uncertainty as promoters and investigators review the situation.
He's a lightweight. So, by all means, if they make a few quid and nobody gets hurt, then great. But I certainly wouldn't be paying a penny to watch it. I think it's just absolutely ridiculous, farcical. Who wants to watch an exhibition? Gervonta Davis is in his prime years. Why is he wasting his time? Why is he having a rematch with the fella he got a draw with? Why is he not fighting? Why is he not going up a weight and fighting Lopez and Garcia's and them fighters? Why is he fighting Jake Paul in an exhibition? I get the money's great, but he's in the prime years. This is his best year. This is where he can become. Maybe you don't want to be an all-time great. Maybe you don't want to do all that stuff. Maybe you just want.
The civil suit filed in Miami-Dade County accuses Davis of multiple offenses, including battery, aggravated battery, false imprisonment, kidnapping, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. The allegations, if proven true, could have devastating consequences both legally and professionally. For now, the case remains a civil matter, and no new criminal charges connected to this complaint have been filed.
WBC lightweight world champion Gervonta "Tank" Davis was arrested earlier this week for a closed fist slapping his daughter's mother. What's a closed fist slap? Is it like this? Bro, you can't be closed fist slapping women. You can't be slapping women at all. But don't you know your hand is like Thor's hammer? Bro, you can go to jail for even flicking somebody, man. Don't you got a fight coming up? Or are you trying to ruin your career?
Davis has yet to make a detailed public statement addressing the accusations. Instead, the first response came indirectly through his coach, who stated that Davis is doing great and that they are still trying to understand what is happening. The cautious approach seems intentional, keeping Davis out of the spotlight while his legal and promotional teams assess the damage. Meanwhile, Jake Paul's promotion company, Most Valuable Promotions, has confirmed an internal investigation. Their statement emphasized zero tolerance for violence and pledged to gather all relevant information before deciding on next steps. While the fight remains on the schedule for now, insiders report that it is likely canceled. Sports journalist Dame Mara posted on X that the event's postponement is almost certain. Originally set for Atlanta's State Farm Arena before being moved to Miami, the matchup between a social media sensation and a world champion boxer had all the ingredients for a viral blockbuster.
In the making, when a fairly novice Jake Paul made a wish list of future opponents, and right in the middle of that list was Gervonta "Tank" Davis. Many laughed at the time, and some still can't believe we're here. But these two young men are the face of boxing for Gen Z and Gen Alpha. They are the two biggest boxers in America, and they are putting it all on the line. One has the speed, the skill, the accuracy, and the one-punch knockout power. The other has the size, the force, and the unbreakable confidence to make this must-see Netflix. The size difference is...
Fight's rules added further intrigue. Davis, a lightweight champion accustomed to competing between 135 and 140 pounds, would step into the ring against Jake Paul, who competes closer to cruiserweight range. During the press conference, organizers confirmed an upper weight limit of 195 pounds and 12-ounce gloves. Davis questioned the rule set and the massive size gap, expressing skepticism about the novelty of the matchup. Still, the crossover spectacle promised to be one of the year's biggest boxing events, blending viral entertainment with traditional combat.
I want to watch is Tank Davis versus Jake Paul. I want Tank Davis to knock his block off. I'm sick of the Paul brothers, both of them. I can't stand either one of them. And I know I'll get pounded with emails. You're just jealous. No, I'm not jealous of them. I could care less how much money they make. I don't like their attitude. I don't like the way they conduct themselves. I don't like the way they think, you know.
Across social media, boxing fans have grown increasingly cynical about Davis's recent choices. Many claim he is avoiding top-tier opponents like Shakur Stevenson, and Teofimo Lopez opting instead for a more financially rewarding but less competitive bout against Jake Paul. They argue that money, not legacy, now drives his decisions.
He wasn't going to ever fight no Shakur Stevenson, no Keyshawn Davis, no Teofimo Lopez, no none of them dudes. You know what I'm talking about? We got to think and look at Tank Davis's whole career. He done made some bread, but at the end of the day, all that bread that he made, when it's all said and done, he ain't going to get no respect from his peers, because we going to look down his resume and we going to be like, he was trash, he was some trash, he was some trash, he was all right, but he was never like that. He was okay. He was some trash, he was some trash.
Before this, Davis had been preparing for a rematch with Lamont Roach after their previous contest ended in a controversial majority draw. That fight was expected to settle unfinished business and strengthen Davis's boxing legacy. However, when the Jake Paul opportunity surfaced, offering a rumored $50 million payday and massive international exposure plans quickly changed. Commentators noted that this reflects a broader trend in modern boxing, where big-name crossover fights often overshadow traditional legacy-defining matchups. For Davis, the Paul fight was not just about competition. It was a chance to reach global audiences and cement his brand beyond the sport's hardcore following.
He's in a division where he's got killers all in his division. You know, Shakur, Haney, who's 147. You know, you look at Tio, for example, Keyshawn, and then you choose to fight someone like Paul. Surely that's a concern when you do look at it like that.
Yeah, but again, it's the world we're in. If you can get a huge amount of money to fight someone who's never boxed, really, before, you're going to do it. You know, Floyd Mayweather boxed Logan Paul with a huge weight disparity.
He was done by then. He was done. This is an active world champion.
But it's the world we're in.
Yeah.
And that's the truth. You know, when it comes down to it. It's just like Conor McGregor fighting Floyd Mayweather. Two completely different sports. Was the biggest pay-per-view in recent times, wasn't it? Mm-hmm. Maybe if ever.
Those are like different comparisons, though, if you think about it. Do you not like...
Yeah, but the sport's in a wild place, isn't it? That's I'm just like the reality of where we are, you know. And I can't really say much when we're talking about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Do you think Tank should get stripped of his title?
Yeah, I think anyone who, just in general, doesn't defend their title to do something else should get stripped, because it shouldn't hold the belts up. You know, in any, I think that should be the reality in anything. You know, if you're not going to defend your belts, or you're not defending, sometimes there's the rules, obviously, if you fight for a belt at a higher weight, you can retain the belt until there. But if you're not, don't have intention of defending the belts, you shouldn't hold the belts up. People should get the opportunity to fight for them.
What happened with the failed negotiations between AJ and Jake Paul?
I think anything's still possible. That was always discussed for next year. You know, this fight's November, early part of next year.
Former world champion Carl Froch did not hold back in his criticism, calling the situation an absolute joke. Froch claimed that negotiations for a potential Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua fight were nearly finalized, 99% complete in his words before. Paul switched direction to fight Davis, a man nearly half his size. To Froch, the move shows that Jake is chasing headlines, not challenges. He argued that facing Joshua would have been a legitimate test, while fighting Davis turns the event into a circus.
But the fight against Jake Paul ain't going to happen anyway. It ain't going to happen. We can all believe it. Jake Paul...
Eddie Hearn said it's 99% done.
Because, you know what? Jake Paul's done a great job in hustling Eddie. Yeah. He's going to get so either Eddie's in on it, or he's like this young man hustling. Yeah. And so the kids kidded the kidders.
Well, listen, we've had a chat, we've caught up. We'll have another chat as well in a...
I'm going to do some sunbathing, man.
Days, bit of sunbathing. Top up the town.
Yes, I do.
As well.
Black is the number.
Let us know in the comments below who you think wins the fight and what Anthony Joshua should be doing next. Do you agree with us? Do you disagree with us? Let us know in the comments below. This has been another episode of Froch on Fighting. Got the main man here, Johnny Nelson, a.k.a.
Blick Man.
We'll see. He said it, not me. We'll see you on the next episode. Take care. Just here at Los Naranjos in Viva, España, and I found out that Gervonta Davis is now fighting Jake Paul. So Jake Paul was supposed to be fighting AJ. Eddie Hearn announced 99% done, which we've just spoke about. What next for AJ? Potentially Jake Paul. But it now looks like that Jake Paul is fighting one of Anthony Joshua's legs. He's fighting Gervonta Davis, somebody who's a quarter of his size. I don't even know what's going on. Has Eddie Hearn been playing?
However, Nakisa Badarian, co-founder of Most Valuable Promotions, pushed back on those claims. He asserted that size would not determine the outcome against a fighter of Davis's caliber. Badarian explained that Paul needed a higher weight limit only because of his relative inexperience. He also revealed that the Paul versus Davis fight was not a spontaneous idea. It had been in the works for years, after the proposed Canelo-Alvarez bout fell. Through the path to Davis became clear as both camps had already shown interest.
Jake and Tank are going to happen November 14th.
Whatever weight they want, man, they're talking about it, and whatever it is, there's going to be a definitive outcome. People can talk about pro, exhibition. We're going to make sure this is as real as it's real.
Why was it, just out of curiosity, why is it not a professional bout and why is it an exhibition? Because I'm sure Jake would have taken the professional bout.
Nothing's been communicated as yet in terms of what it is, right? Similar to, if you remember, with Paul Tyson, when we announced it, we didn't have the weight, we didn't have the rules, particularly in terms of the number of rounds, the minutes, the gloves. It's going to be the same thing here.
Gotcha. Can you just offer us any insight as to how these negotiations went? And the reason I ask is because I remember back in March, I was at Tank's fight, and after his fight in his press conference, he was asked, next opponent. He said, well, my next opponent might have been in my locker room tonight. And people asked him, was it Jake? He made reference, he made allusion to. Has this been an ongoing thing? And has it ever, been at a point where it wasn't going to happen and came back, or was this always the plan?
Always been the plan for Jake to fight Tank once Canelo didn't happen. And to Tank's credit, he's a real bad dude, and he's been calling out Jake for 3 years. And people, it's funny how now they're saying size matters, Jake is big, when for so long it's been Tank would kill Jake Paul. Now you get to...
Badarian admitted the size difference is undeniable as Paul is taller, heavier and longer, but insisted Davis's superior experience and technical mastery balance the scales. Tank Davis has spent over a decade as an elite pro holding world titles, maintaining an exceptional record and showcasing knockout power that few can match. His quickness, timing, and adaptability make him one of boxing's most dangerous fighters. Paul, while improving, has yet to face someone of this caliber.
This is obvious, but so is the skill and experience difference. One man has been doing this for 23 years, since the age of 7. The other picked up the sport 5 years ago and has virtually no amateur experience. So the size difference is what makes this plausible. The king of the jungle here is Tank Davis. He is the lion taking on the young elephant that is Jake Paul. The lion is looking at me like he's about to eat me. The lion is fast, he's fierce, and he's fatal when he strikes. But the young elephant is big, powerful, and hard to knock down. And come Friday, November 14th, the jungle will be set in tropical Miami, Florida, and the world will be watching.
Analyst Joe Rogan took a more balanced view. He acknowledged that Jake Paul has brought fresh energy and younger audiences to the sport, something traditional promoters struggled to do. Still, Rogan questioned whether Jake is truly ready to face an active world-class boxer in his prime. Paul's previous victories came against older or retired fighters, often from other sports. Davis, by contrast, represents elite-level skill precision and raw speed. Rogan praised Jake's bravery, but noted that once the bell rings, no amount of fame or followers can soften the blows from a fighter like Gervonta Davis.
10 fights, what if Jake Paul knocks one of them out? What if you get a guy that, hasn't been tested and maybe has some promise and maybe gets wrapped up in the hype and maybe gets a little nervous, and this is his first chance at a big show, and Jake Paul can crack.
Yeah.
100%. That knockout of Tyron Woodley is legit as fuck. He can crack.
But Eddie's point in that interview, and I think the point that just about every boxing aficionado would say, is that Tyron,
former 2-division world champion, Paulie Malignaggi shared a similar sense of surprise at the matchup's announcement. It came out of nowhere, he admitted. While Jake Paul's history of unconventional matchups is well known, Malignaggi was still taken aback by the decision to pit him against a lightweight. Yet he underscored that Davis's accomplishments speak for themselves, with world titles dominant performances and a lasting influence on the sport. He urged fans not to forget the legacy. Davis has already built amid the noise of controversy and spectacle.
More to lose because he's the bona fide world champion. I don't care if he's much smaller. I think Jake Paul has sort of plateaued as far as where his boxing is concerned. It's rather low level. Yeah. He's big, he's physical, he's strong, he can hit. So there is that risk. Davis, at lightweight, you're in a moment where it's too physical for you. You can clinch. Against the heavyweight, where you clinching? You ain't getting out of that corner just clinching anymore if you run out of space. You know what I mean? So it's interesting. But Davis, listen, there's a lot of talking points that I'm sure we'll get into when this gets closer to the fight. Davis can still punch at lightweight. Can he drop a heavyweight? There's a lot to gain there, right? If Davis knocks
the answer is yes.
If Davis drops Jake on his ass, as much as Davis is the one with more to lose, it's still a highlight moment.
A visual that will stay forever.
Yeah. But if you get dropped, even if you're smaller, you're still a world champion, multiple weight classes. If you get dropped, what's the look? What's the feel? On the inside, as boxers, me and Chris Algieri, the champ, even you, Jimmy, you have fight experience, so we know that the risk is a big guy that big hits you. You're probably going down if you're a small guy if he hits you clean. So we know the risk, but how does it look to the public eye who don't understand that? You know what I mean? The public. So there is a lot to lose, though. There's a bit to gain. I wouldn't necessarily have an issue with this had Davis's career arc been one that benefited boxing. Davis was manufactured and put into a position where he's supposed to benefit boxing, and I don't think he has. I think he's hurt boxing. So by giving him this reward, that's my problem. Why are we watching this? Why don't you make him earn his spot?
In contrast, one of Jake. Paul's former sparring partners gave a blunt warning saying, "Tank hits too hard. Jake has never felt that kind of power before." He argued that while Paul has confidence from knocking out MMA fighters and retired boxers, he has never shared a ring with someone as explosive as Davis. According to him, Davis does not just land punches, he inflicts damage. He believes Jake will quickly realize he has stepped into a level of danger far beyond his previous experience. Though many respect Jake's willingness to take risks, the sparring partner concluded every risk has a limit, and Tank Davis is that limit.
Man, like every single time, people said that Jake would get finished or he would lose a fight, he obviously proved everybody wrong. But I genuinely believe this time, I think that, with Gervonta's boxing IQ and him having Jake come down a little bit in weight, I think Gervonta will beat him, honestly. I think Gervonta will hurt him. I think he'll just use IQ. He'll tire him out a little bit. And, I think he'll land. Gervonta knows how to touch his opponents. But it's interesting because when Floyd fought Logan, the size really, really made a big, impact. And you saw Floyd struggle, against a big, Ohio corn-fed, wrestling strong dude. And, I've sparred Jake and Logan before, and, they train hard.
You're picking Tank by knockout?
Look, I sparred them years ago.
UFC legend Daniel Cormier offered a broader perspective on Jake Paul's career. He noted that Paul's spectacle-driven fight with Mike Tyson on Netflix had already redefined what boxing entertainment could look like. While critics dismiss Paul as a social media stuntman, Cormier argued that Jake's work ethic, improved skill set, and bold matchmaking prove he is serious about the sport. Whether loved or hated, Paul has changed the way boxing reaches mainstream audiences, and that in Cormier's view is a victory in itself.
Twice. Big numbers. Jake Paul fought against Tommy Fury. Big numbers. Jake Paul, who I believe, and I have told you guys this time and time again, he's much better than people give him credit for. One, Jake Paul is not an amateur fighter, like some try to say. Jake Paul has money, so Jake Paul is getting trained by the best boxing coaches that money can buy. He's full-time boxing. There are a lot of people that say he may do some other stuff. I don't know who he was going to fight that was saying that he was juiced up and he was ignoring him. Or was it Logan Paul? One of them. But at the end of the day, This kid's training to be the best fighter in the world, or the best as he can be, and he understands what losing would do to the perception of who he is in fighting. We were yelling so much about him fighting someone. Fight somebody your size. Fight somebody, a real boxer. Stop fighting MMA guys. There were so many things that people were mad about in regards to his level of competition and the people he was competing against. Well, today we learned that Jake Paul has his next opponent. His next opponent is by far the most credentialed guy.
That's for today. Video. Subscribe for more.